Very good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another Live at the Waterhole. It is 12:30 here in South Africa on Thursday, the 21st of August. And what a lovely way to start a 2-hour odyssey across our various cameras dotted around the continent. We've started at Simbavati Waterside in the Timbavati Game Reserve, and a giraffe having a drink. What a beautiful, beautiful sight. But this is live and interactive as always. So, for all of you wonderful people who have tuned in to watch the beautiful landscapes and wildlife, and unfortunately have to listen to me waffle on for the next couple of hours, please remember that you are most welcome and encouraged to send in questions and comments. And I, as always, will do my best to answer them or at least read them out, and maybe we can get some good discussions going for today. But it is a spectacular day here in Hoedspruit. It is quite positively glorious, in fact. Spring is definitely springing over here. It's forecast to be 34 degrees today, not a cloud in the sky, a nice gentle breeze, but things definitely beginning to change. Temperatures are warming up, certainly. We're seeing the return of various migratory birds, more insects moving around at night time. So lots of fun in store, but we still await the first rains of the season, of course. But in fairness, we probably have a month or two to wait for any significant rains, much to the annoyance of the animals, I'm sure. Because as you can see from the backdrop, there is not much to choose from at the moment. The green leaves that you can see are from the magic guarri plant, which are evergreen. They don't lose their leaves during the dry winter months, but they are not very tasty, as you can see. Otherwise, things would have eaten them by now. They have a very, very waxy coating, lots and lots of tannins in there for chemical defense, and generally speaking, the animals don't like to eat the guarri leaves, despite the fact there is very little else. But a very good afternoon to Joanne Mello, who's joining us, to Mercedes Bin, saying happy thirsty Thursday. Certainly the giraffe agrees with you. And hello, Mr. Elemental from Perth in Western Australia. This one giraffe has decided to show himself. No, he's still not decided if he wants to come for a drink yet. Maybe finding the occasional little leaf somewhere that's worth a nibble. I've just noticed there's a third one in the back right as well. Certainly these two are boys. And of course, you never quite know with giraffe. We get mixed herds, but more often than not, you get solitary bulls, groups of males and groups of females. If there is a bull associating with the females, as is often the case, he is probably there for one reason and one reason alone, which of course is company and good conversation. Or possibly being attracted by the scent of an estrusing female. But quite a thirsty giraffe, this one, taking the opportunity, maybe feeling a little bit safer, the fact that he's got some reinforcements behind him. Looks slightly bow-legged from this angle. Maybe stretched too far. A little dazzle of zebra also taking the opportunity to come down for a spot of light refreshment. Mr. J, you're enjoying the giraffe drinking posture. Yes, it's one of nature's most, how would you describe it? Unique sights, I suppose. You always feel a bit bad for the giraffe that it seems like such an effort to get something as important as moisture. But remember, they do extract an awful lot of moisture from what they are eating, but this time of year they are under as much water stress as anything else. And so still will take the opportunity to have a drink. But yes, it is a remarkable display of balance and strength that never fails to amaze me how much pressure, stresses, and strains must be on the knees and the ligaments and the tendons. Because a big giraffe is a big animal. You're looking at 1.5 tons, and to have it all leaning forward on flexed front legs must be a huge amount of elasticity and wear and tear going on in those joints. But it is very beautiful to watch, so an awkward grace. Aaron January, you're also commenting on the giraffe's drinking posture. Nice to hear a few new names coming through as well. I'm sure if you're joining us for the first time or just plucked up the courage to send in some questions and comments, but please do keep them coming. A lot simpler for these zebras to have a drink. Nice to just see a small group. Can't quite see from here whether we've got a male just with a very small harem or whether we perhaps have a little bachelor group of boys here who have, as of yet at least, not managed to procure themselves any ladies to look after. Of course, zebra stallions are not gifted females. They don't hold a territory and wait for the females to approach them. They have to go out and find the ladies and potentially hijack them, steal them, abduct them, persuade them, whatever verb we're going to use from an existing harem. Hence why stallions often do get into quite a few fights, defending the honor of their ladies. It looks like a male at the front and a female in the middle, stationary at the moment. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say the one drinking's also a lady, and maybe it's a boy who has only got himself two females for now.
Hi everybody, looks like we have just located on a beautiful leopardess known as Tlalamba.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
Would you like to know the difference between a male and female wildebeest? You can ask me questions like this in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive here in the heart of Africa. Join me on Safari Live and connect with nature.
its stock levels, meaning that animals don't often go far afield from it and can cause quite a lot of localized damage in terms of the vegetation and the soil integrity. Kathy, you're saying persuade them sounds better. I agree that it's sort of, as I was running down the list, I realised I was probably not endearing myself. So, yeah, persuade woo would perhaps be an even better one. Look at these two stumbling to try and get out on the slippery slopes. Mad Max, you're asking, does size equate to respect from other bulls in elephants? Yes, it does, Mad Max. If you're a big elephant, you've instantaneously got more power. Obviously, a lot will depend as well on your social standing and the smells, your hormones that you are emanating, which is going to be picked up by other animals, your confidence levels. But generally speaking, in an altercation, the bigger of the two elephants will win, often without a fight. There is a good amount of respect shown for size within the elephant community, which is why male elephants generally don't get breeding rights or breeding opportunities, at least, until they are probably in their mid-30s, because by that point they are still growing and they will always bow to a larger male. Sandy, this behaviour can indeed make the pan bigger. You can kind of see as they dig around in there, they are inadvertently expanding the boundaries of that water. So yes, absolutely, this sort of activity, it happens over many, many years, but rubbings and scratchings and elephants digging up the mud or tusking into the bank to create mud can certainly increase the dimensions of a waterhole. May also happen with natural processes, just general weathering and erosion during the summer months. But if the elephants have created a little sort of nick point or somewhere where the water can get in and start eating away at the bank, that will also obviously cause it to expand as well. Azania, you're asking, do the veins in the elephant's ears bleed when injured? It's a good question, Azania, because they are very, very close to the surface, so you would think that even just a tiny nick from a thorn would be enough to produce a cascade of blood. It'll be venous blood as opposed to arterial blood, so I imagine it would bleed, but I've never actually seen one that I can think of obviously bleeding. Whether or not their blood has an exceptional coagulation mechanism to maybe stop them bleeding too much, or whether they would also sort of plug it with dust and mud, throwing things up there behind the ears, that's also another point. But I would think that it must bleed, but I've never seen one, sort of gushing blood from behind the ears. Hello to Deb D, who's joining us from Hershey, Pennsylvania. Is that where they create Hershey bars, aren't they, a thing? Some sort of confectionery? I think there's a Hershey bar, or it may just be coincidental. But you've got me thinking there, Azania, because they often do scratch against trees with the, behind the ear there because it's difficult to reach. So I'm surprised we don't see more with obvious injuries or scars. We see lots of sort of nicks and rips around the edges of the ears and occasionally holes straight through them. But I haven't seen any obvious scarring. Maybe they do a good job of protecting them. But that was nice to see some youngsters playing around in the mud, always is with elephants. But let's head up to the northwest. Let's go to Madikwe and Tau for a little bit. very dry, barren landscape up in Madikwe at the moment. A beautiful elephant bull having a drink, and a very spectacular waterbuck on the right as well, taking advantage of some of that aquatic vegetation. Beautiful light at Madikwe today as well. It looks sort of soft and diffuse. Almost looks like golden hour at 1:45 in the afternoon. Oh, Laura Moore, you're up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Where are you joining us from if it's 3 a.m.? But you can't see, but you're going to count some elephants. Absolutely. Who needs sheep? Count elephants. It's a bit easier, less likely to lose count, I would think. But currently 1. I'm afraid. I hope that's enough for you, Laura Moore. But hopefully these beautiful vistas of Africa will be enough to send you into a slumber. You can hear the crested barbet trilling away in the background. Kathy, I wouldn't say Madikwe is generally a lot warmer than the Sabi region, but it is often a little bit drier in terms of annual rainfall. Because we are in the Sabi region, as you put it, we would just sort of term as the low veld, which is on the eastern side of the country, which is generally slightly more tropical. So we're a bit closer to the Indian Ocean. We have that warm current running down the eastern seaboard of South Africa, and a lot of our rain comes from that direction. So it's from that warm, moist air that's being carried in from the ocean currents, which is why the low veld generally has a higher rainfall than the western side of the country. So temperature-wise, around about the same, high 30s to low to mid-40s in the summer, but a little bit less rain on average, I would think. I would need to double-check the specific annual rainfalls, but my gut tells me it would be a little bit drier up there. Lorraine, we'll be expecting rains probably from October onwards. You never know, we may get a little shower as the seasons change, as we move from winter to spring. That's likely to create a little bit of disturbance in weather patterns, and we might have the occasional little shower, potentially even a thunderstorm, but then it should clear itself up again. But the full-blooded rains, the wet season, generally will start around sort of end of October into November. October, traditionally for me, is one of the hottest months. Even though we're just sort of coming into summer, it's almost as if the seasons are not quite decided what to do, so they get a bit confused, and we have this really hot weather, and we often have quite windy months. August and October can be quite windy. Again, changing of seasons, air pressure, differences causing those stronger winds. And we also get a lot of, in this region, what we call the berg winds around this time of year, where wind comes off the escarpment, and as it descends, it picks up heat. And by the time it whips across the low veld here, it's a really uncomfortable hot wind. If you're driving into it in an open game view, I used to remember going to sort of pick up guests from the gate. My time at the Sabi Sands was sort of a 1 or a 2 o'clock arrival. If that berg wind was pumping, then it almost feels like you're driving into a hairdryer. You always have to sort of fight to breathe it properly because it's uncomfortable. And of course, that constitutes fire season. We're very much entering peak fire season now. Everything's very, very dry. Things are beginning to warm up. There's still not much humidity, and those winds can create very, very good conditions for fire to spread. Oh, look at this young Illy coming in with his war paint. He's had a variety of different soil types. Looks rather dramatic. Robin McLean, you say the colours of Tower remind you of the Australian outback. Oh, hello, little one. I can certainly believe it. I've never visited the outback, but from my knowledge from watching documentaries and movies, my brain instantly went to Crocodile Dundee when you said that. But yes, I can certainly see the similarities from my limited experience and knowledge. A little gathering of animals here, and interestingly, I've just heard that earlier today there were lions seen at the waterhole here, and so they may still be somewhere in the tree line. So we will keep a very close eye for any cats watching all of these animals come down for a drink today. Again, these two youngsters really enjoying life in the mud.
Oh, wow.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website. Every month, something wild lands in your inbox. From rare sightings and behind-the-scenes secrets to expert stories, seasonal changes, and exclusive travel opportunities, the Wild Earth Journal is your free monthly mailer, packed with the magic of the wild straight from the field. It's fun, it's free, it's full of surprises. Sign up now on the Wild Earth website.
Confidence, head high, and wobbling from side to side when he walks. It's a bit like that sort of stereotypical arrogant walk that somebody might do down the street here, that very deliberate posture and pose, basically saying, look at me, I think I'm the bee's knees. Look how big I am, look how dominant I am. Any ladies looking, look at what you might be missing. It's an advertisement, it's body language, trying to show dominance and confidence. Laura Moore, you're saying spectacular images. You're enjoying the reflection of the water and the contrast of the blue sky and the tan-coloured ground, as you put it. Well, there's a reason that it always looks nice. Laura Moore, you think about your colour wheel from your art days at school, or if you do interior design, orange and blue are opposite one another, so they are, I'm not sure what the appropriate term is, but they contrast together exceptionally well. It's one of the reasons why places like the Namib Desert produce such incredibly impactful photography, because you've got that clear blue, rich sapphire sky and that lovely sort of burnt sulfur orange sand, and the human eye just really enjoys the contrast of those two. And a very warm welcome to Elaine Twitchett. You're saying you're really enjoying this programme and you only came across it on Monday whilst being poorly. We're very sorry to hear that, Elaine. I'm sure the rest of the viewers will join me in wishing you a speedy recovery, but I'm exceptionally happy that you have found our show. And I hope that you are enjoying it and that this theme of Africa will assist in your getting better process. Getting better process, that's terrible language. I'll just stick with recovery, I think. How nice would it be, though, if a lion just popped up out of the bush and sauntered down and had a drink? I have seen lions myself at Tower Waterhole a couple of years ago. They were hunting wildebeest, but were unsuccessful. But I stayed in one of the chalets there and watching them late one evening, just sitting outside on the little stoep, the little deck that we had, watching these lions maraud across that open area. It was very, very cool. But look at this lovely little creche of young elephants. How cute is this? Laura Moore, just the different colours of the soils are just going to denote the mineral content within them. So in iron-rich soils, it's normally more orangey red. In very leached soils that have lost a lot of the nutrients, it can go rather pale, like you can see in this surrounding area. You can see a lot of the soil in Madikwe is quite red, but here around the dam, because it's been so badly eroded, it's exposed, it's been bleached a little bit by the sun. There's not so many nutrients available in there, so the colour is an indication of what's contained within the soil. There's a little bit of dominance behaviour going on between these youngsters, quite normal to see. See a young male mounting, I would imagine, another young male. It's just a way of establishing hierarchies between them. The young one pushing above or punching above his weight there. Just a muddy pile of young elephants. And a big takedown. This is a full-blooded scrum. I've just actually heard that one of the lionesses, I believe, that was seen here has 3 small cubs as well, so we will definitely be keeping an eye on this camera. Unlikely that they're going to come down without any sort of the cover of darkness during the day, especially with all these elephants and things around. But you never know. I think these youngsters are getting a little bit too overzealous now. I wonder if some of these adults are just going to crack the whip and say, "Come on, enough is enough. Stop messing around." Helga, you were saying it's mud wrestling time at Tau. Yeah, absolutely it is. But we do get this sort of vicarious enjoyment of watching young elephants roll around in the mud, or any animals for that matter. They just elicit such genuine, pure emotional joy. It really is special to watch. But interesting how it's contrasted against much more sedate adults, very similar to humans, really, and unlikely to see adults rolling around in the mud, but kids love it. Generally getting dirty. Yeah, Dark Main lover, spa treatments at Tau. It's daily mud pack time for these youngsters. EJ, you're asking do guides go on safari for their holidays? Yeah, we do, EJ, to be honest. We're suckers for punishment, but we do what we love and we love what we do. So, yes, many of us will work a 6-week cycle guiding guests for 42 days in a row, then have 2 weeks off and go and spend it in Kruger or another national park. Or somewhere like that. It is nice to have a few days to just rest and recharge at home. But when you spend your life submerged in this sort of environment, you miss it dearly. And you can imagine, I don't want to use the word institutionalized, we're not institutionalized at all, but when you're living and working on a game reserve and those people around you become your family because you see them all day, every day, the other staff members there, then when you do get the chance to go somewhere, it sounds like a good idea at the time, just because you're craving, something a little bit different. But to be honest, as soon as you get stuck in your first traffic jam, or you have to queue for something, or you have to deal with other people on the roads, you very quickly start wishing you were somewhere a lot more beautiful and peaceful again. I always found one of the hardest things was to drive quickly, because for 6 weeks you generally don't go over about 30 or 35 kilometers an hour, and suddenly you're thrust onto the road with other road users, and you're allowed to drive 120 kilometers an hour. It's petrifying for the first time you do it, if you haven't been that fast for ages. But it's nice to be able to go out for a meal, or go to the cinema, or go to some shops and things to stock up. But to be honest, 3 or 4 days of city life is normally enough for many of us. Lorraine, you say you love watching baby elephants frolicking in the mud. I think we all do, Lorraine. We all do. quick scan in that long grass for any sign of any lions, but nothing yet. Okay, that was a lovely trip to Tau. Let's head over to Camel Thorn. And an awful lot of zebras. Moonlight at midnight. You love watching young Ellies having a mud bath and their genuine excitement. Completely agree. Moonlight at midnight. I like your name as well. But plenty of zebras quite happily standing in the water, not bothered by all the crocs, more making their way down the slope as well. Quite the gathering.
Step into the heart of Africa from the comfort of your home.
Female leopard tracks over here.
Join our expert guides for a live 3-hour safari where every moment is real, unscripted, and unforgettable. Ask questions.
Animals rely on their senses.
Share your thoughts and be part of the experience as we explore together. Safari Live.
Kevin Hayes, you're saying why allow waterholes to have less water or dry up completely? It's a debate that we often have, Kevin. I know it would be lovely to give the animals constant water at all times, but remember, what we are doing is trying to preserve natural environments, not making an artificial environment. So if the natural order of things is for a waterhole to dry up, then that's what it should do. So long as the animals still have access to other water, it encourages migration, it encourages movement, which will in itself encourage genetic diversity as animals mingle, and perhaps most importantly, it takes pressure off the vegetation and the soil around permanent water sources, because that vegetation gets hit very, very hard by hungry animals that constantly come to the same place for water. And it never has a chance to recover. So this waterhole is pumped. So this one will not completely dry up unless there is a mechanical problem. But look at the vegetation around it. There's not much left, and you can see how little grass or anything else because of all the foot traffic and the comings and goings of these animals. So it's always a difficult one. We've learned through conservation practices over the years and observation and greater understanding of ecosystems and the relationships within them that if you put too much water and never rotate those water points, you can actually have an adverse effect on the organisms and the food chains and the ecosystem around it. Helga, yes, this is a migration thing. It's not a migration that I know too much about, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. But what I have learned recently from also noticing a huge increase in the number of zebra around these areas, it's Camelthorne Farmstead and the Battetti River area. It seems that in the winter months, because of places like this where there is artificial water that's provided, that many zebras do congregate in and around the river valleys around the Battetti River. And then once summer comes, oh, here comes a big elephant bull, we're going to forge a path through all the zebras. Once the summers come and the rain comes and places like the Karikari pans start to sprout grass, then the zebras move into those areas to take advantage of the better grazing, and that then gives this area around the Battetti River a chance to recover, like we were just saying. So I couldn't give you a number in terms of how many zebras do come and go. There are some wildebeest as well, but it does seem to be predominantly a zebra-based migration. But certainly we have been seeing thousands over the last few weeks. The imposing figures of these elephant bulls lumbering in the general direction. You can see all the zebras moving out of his way. Kicking up great clouds of dust. Not sure if this young bull is just rushing to get to the water or also enjoying chasing. So yeah, he's not quite sure about all these zebras. See the way the tail is sticking out, it's a sign of a slightly agitated elephant. The zebras now congregated at the top, having lost the advantage. Reminds me a little bit of that scene out of the Two Towers of Lord of the Rings, where the Rohirrim is at the top of the hill before descending on Mount Doom. Sorry, not Mount Doom, on Hell's Deep, in order to win that final battle. Right, that was a nice little trip to Camelthorne. Let's head up to Old Donyo in Kenya for the first time today. A close-up of some giraffes' toenails. Ollie, you're asking me what's the most interesting feeding behaviour I've seen from elephants. I don't think if I've seen elephants eating anything unusual. I think one of the things I always enjoy seeing is when they start attacking those round leaf teaks, or the bloodwoods as they're also known, with those large, sort of very rounded, circular compound leaves. They have a tendency to break those branches off when they're quite young, and then they put them in one side of their mouth and they corkscrew them across those massive molars, and it strips off all the bark, trying to get to that cambium layer. So something we see a lot this time of year, and then this branch comes out the other side, almost like a conveyor belt with all of the bark removed from it. I always sort of rather enjoy watching that. I don't know why. It's something almost sort of a mechanical process about it. It goes in one side of the mouth looking one way and comes out the other side having been stripped of that bark. So that's something I always enjoy watching. I shall let you know if I think of anything else specific or unusual that I've seen an elephant feeding on. I suppose it's always great to see them knocking over trees and shaking the marulas. That's always good fun as well, just to see the power. Gavin M, you are saying you can certainly see why we call a group of zebra a dazzle. Yep, it is quite a distracting optical illusion formed by so many of them in one place at one time. It becomes very, very difficult to disassociate them from each other, and they just become this great stripy blur. Maybe we must come up for a new collective noun from zebras. We use dazzle all the time. Maybe an illusion of zebras, or what else could it be? Got any other ideas for collective nouns for zebras? Send them in. Maybe we can replace dazzle, or have an alternate.
Let's go and take a look. See you out there. My full name is Cedric Leslie Dold. I grew up mostly here in the Lowveld. I grew up here pretty much on the southern side of Kruger National Park, a place called Marlow Park, for most of my years. Something surprising about myself, I did play drums in a band for many years. Best sighting I've presented, we found Columba and the 2 cubs, and the cubs are just way big.
But our ones down here in southern Africa have that shadow stripe, whereas in East Africa, the zebras lack those shadow stripes. So it is not at the trick of the light, Robin McLean. You noticed correctly. Hello, wildlife lady. Glad you could join us. You are right. Lovely scenes at Oldonyo. It seems the boys are back in town. Everybody kind of keeping their distance from each other here. We've sort of got the 4 cardinal points of Oldonyo's waterhole covered with elephants. The one facing us, I'm guessing, is the most dominant. He's the one who staked claim over that pipe, which I think we're possibly going to see him reaching for now to get some of that fresher water. You see he just sort of pushed the one on the left out the way a little bit, or the one on the left gave him a bit of space when he moved into that position. And I have to say, this one moving past us now is quite a spectacular animal as well. Thickness of those tusks, even if that one is broken, very substantial. VC, you said you'd rename zebra congregations an avoidance of pachyderms. It's a bit of a mouthful, but I like the way you're thinking. Kathy, I couldn't tell you exactly where this waterhole is situated. I've not actually visited this area in person, but I believe it is pretty close to the lodge, yes. We do sometimes hear voices and things in the background. So there's obviously either a viewing area or I imagine it's very close to the lodge grounds. Look at this little bit of a stretch going on from this pool. Chancellor, you're asking when elephants cross their legs, are they resting? Often they are doing. They will shift just like we do. They will shift their weight from one leg to another just to take a little bit of pressure off. I think in that situation there was a little bit of a stretch going on. They also use their legs to scratch their other legs as well, which we also saw. But yes, it's quite common for them to just shift weight between them. Sometimes you'll also see them sort of cock a front leg so that they're just almost resting their toenails onto the ground. That may also be a resting posture, but we also know that there are sensory receptor cells within the toes there, these little things called corpuscles, and we think that's one of the ways that they are able to communicate with each other. They send those deep seismic rumbles through the ground, that infrasound, which is transmitted through the terrain and then can potentially be picked up by other elephants through their feet, a bit like a directional microphone. Beautiful little congregation of superb starlings. I suppose we should say a murmuration if we're talking collective nouns. Julie, I'm glad you're enjoying the starlings. Yeah, it's not just about the big things. Nature's beauty is incredibly diverse, from the big to the small. And it's an excellent name, a superb starling. So there's beautiful contrasting blues and oranges, again, like we were saying before, opposite one another on the colour wheel. Maybe that's why they are so impactful, and that white eye is very, very distinctive as well. One of my favourite birds down here in southern Africa is starling as well, the violet-backed starling, formerly known as the plum-coloured starling. Just has this most beautiful, rich, royal, sort of iridescent purple. Looking forward to seeing them soon. They're intra-African migrants, so they should be returning in the next few months. They have a very distinctive call as well, almost like an electronic noise that the violet-backed starlings make. Raw, you're asking if I've seen an elephant ears bleeding when they've torn them, and we discussed this slightly earlier. Somebody asked a similar question, and despite the fact that you would think it would happen quite a lot by looking at all the rips and the tattered ears you see, I don't remember ever seeing lots of blood streaming from the backs of an elephant's ear if it's pricked it against an acacia thorn or a knob thorn or something, because it is very thin, that skin. But a theory would be that it coagulates rather quickly and is plugged with dust and mud from incidents such as this as well. So I don't remember seeing them. I've seen them bleed, obviously, during darting. Often the antidote for the tranquilizer is administered directly into the into the veins behind the ears, and you can certainly see that bleeds. So it must do, but I'm guessing it heals or seals itself pretty quickly in the scheme of things. I think on the edges of the ear, where we often see a lot of the damage, there's not much in terms of vascular structure there. So I would imagine that's fairly immune from heavy bleeding just because of a lack of blood vessels and capillaries at the extremities. Hello, Mr. Illand. Nice to see you in the background, sporting your very impressive dewlap. Eland is going to try her luck on the non-elephant dominated side of the pan. I'm afraid your water is going to be somewhat disturbed at the moment. Might be quite a lot of sediment, but I'm sure she won't be too concerned. Moonlight at midnight, yes, you do sometimes come across pieces of elephant tusk when you're out on safaris, be it on foot or otherwise, or in the vehicle. Sometimes they're broken off during fights, or perhaps have been from after an elephant has died of natural causes. It gets distributed by the scavenging animals. I remember last year I actually did find an entire tusk. Huge tusk. I've got a photo of me holding it somewhere, but even with the curve, if you flattened out the curve of the tusk, it was probably nearly 2 meters long. I found it under a bush whilst I was actually tracking some cheetah. So I did what I thought I should do, which was I took a GPS location of where it was. I contacted the reserve management and told them about it, and I believe they went to go and collect it. They do not really know where it came from. It was rather strange to find it there, but we found no evidence of foul play in the area. But yeah, so every now and again you do come across pieces of tusk, but the correct thing to do is report it to the reserve management so that they can collect it and keep it safe. Logged and documented. Lucy Fachodi, I'm glad you're finding the Eland gorgeous. She is very pretty, and that male was also rather stunning, although he still has a little bit of growing to do. He wouldn't be a completely fully grown Eland bull, from what I've seen in the past. But always nice to see Eland up here at Old Onyo, not something we get to see too often down here. Erica, yes, believe it or not, twins have been recorded in most animals. It just doesn't happen very often. I couldn't give you a percentage, but we're talking probably like half a percentage of births or something. But it does happen very, very occasionally. The issue is for a lot of these animals that give birth to precocial young is that it's such a long gestation period and the embryo is so large when it comes out, there just really isn't space for more than one to develop in there. But as I said, there are exceptions to every rule, and very, very occasionally. Twins have been recorded in many species. Giraffe, zebra, elephant, I believe, have all had very rare but reported cases of twins. David from Dar es Salaam, weight of a big elephant like this, you're looking at probably somewhere between 6 and 7 tons, so 6 or 7,000 kilograms, or that's going to be, what, about 15 or 16,000 pounds. So an immense creature, certainly, and probably having a shoulder height, this individual, of around about 3.5 meters, I would think. Never really appreciate the true size of an elephant until it walks right next to you. And even in the back of a game viewer, if one comes very close, it's incredibly intimidating. But you have to remember, because of the tiered seating of a lot of these safari vehicles, if you're sitting at the back row, you are sort of at eye level with that elephant. If you're standing in front of it, it is a very different scenario, and you really get a true appreciation of how big they are. I always use the analogy with guests that if I was standing in front of an agitated elephant who's got his head held high to intimidate me, so much higher than the shoulder height at the moment, if I was to stand with my arm stretched out above my head and the butt of the rifle in my palm, so using the whole length of the rifle as well, also about the length of a broomstick, I'm barely touching the elephant's chin. So I'm not the tallest guy in the world. I'm about 5'10", 180 centimeters, but add the length of my arm and the length of a rifle, and I'm still only touching an elephant's chin. So it really is a monstrous creature.
This is an unbelievable afternoon.
Even a hyena coming into the action as well now. Oh my word! She's stalking the hyena now. Leopard, hyena, lion, all together in one shot. Oh. This is action-packed. My full name is Cedric Leslie Dold. The best driver at Wild Earth, it is me. I believe I'm the best driver. I think so, because I've... Best part of my job, I say, is just to try and look out for these animals, track them down. I love tracking animals. I love looking for, fresh tracks, and if you can find them, it's just at the moment of accomplishment. If I wasn't a presenter for Wild Earth, I would be the drummer for AC/DC.
Some of you out there are brilliant at identifying hyenas.
Now, why do you think people have got this huge misunderstanding about reptiles?
Right in front of me there was the face of an astounded buffalo bull.
this is live and interactive. So everybody, if you have any questions and comments, please do send them through and let us know what you'd like.
Foot of water, and super strong, and yeah, they're just the prehistoric aspect of them gives me the Wiggins a little bit. But in terms of things that if I saw that I may scream and run away, I think we're down to the solifuge, the sun spider, the red Roman, whatever you want to call it. Those, sorry to say, horrible, big, fat, hairy, orange arachnids that scuttle around on the ground. The smaller ones don't bother me too much, but it's those big, hairy, orange ones. They're so fast, and they're just, yeah, they weird me out. And I know many people who feel the same. Spiders, I'm okay with, but those things, mm-mm. Did actually get to watch one of the little diurnal ones, which are much smaller and often quite furry as opposed to sort of prickly haired. I saw him digging himself a little retreat in the soil a couple of weeks ago, which was really interesting. Just actually sat and watched him for about 10 minutes. Amazing how quickly he was able to excavate there, and the way he sort of uses his front legs and his pedipalps and his head to sort of push out the sand or the soil from the little burrow that he was creating. An incredible amount of efficiency by which it is done. Doesn't take him long to drill into some relatively solid ground. But that doesn't mean I like them. I might respect them, but I don't like them at all. Spas, you're asking try that again. Have I ever heard of Galoides grecus from Europe? You have them in the Balkans, and you wonder if they're found in East Africa and Kenya in dry areas. I don't know, but I had to double check. I don't know the scientific name of the solifuges we get here, but certainly from just a quick look online, they look very similar to exactly the ones that I was saying that I don't like. Whether or not they are the same species or same genus as the ones that we get here, but certainly physiologically they look very similar. And again, just a quick look of the Galoides genus in general. Apparently there are nearly 200 species in North Africa, Southeastern Europe and Asia. So whether ours are a slightly different genus here, that I would have to check. But regardless of where they're found, they're fairly horrific looking things, in my opinion, unfortunately. Very, very good at what they do. Lots of respect for them, but just really don't like them. Sorry. Dogman Lover, you were saying you're loving how this lone elephant bull was letting the zebras enjoy their drink. I was also thinking he was being particularly tolerant. I believe yesterday there was a little bit of animosity between the two groups, and at one point a group of zebras actually worked together in a sort of a mobbing type behavior and actually did chase off an elephant from the water, just harassed him sufficiently to decide that it was a better idea to go elsewhere. But yes, it is nice to see the elephants sharing the bounty. Melanistic Marble, you say you happened across a leopard last night. It looked much bigger, this waterhole, with a leopard drinking from it than an elephant. Do I understand correctly you saw a leopard on this camera? If you did, that is very, very cool. If only one would grace us with its presence now, but you're right, the elephants do dwarf most things in their general vicinity. Trixie Rose, you're saying your sister woke up once to find a solifuge cutting at her hair with those huge mandibles. That sounds utterly horrific, Trixie Rose, and my sympathies to your sister. That would be a pretty horrible way to wake up, I would suggest. But yeah, you should see the abject panic between very large men. Quite often, if a solifuge comes wandering in, people panic and you try to chase the thing out. They're so hard to catch. You don't want them in your house because you'll never catch that thing. It is so fast, it'll scuttle into some corner or underneath some cupboard that you haven't moved for decades, and it's very, very difficult to go to sleep when you know that one of those is marauding around your room. I've had the same thing. I found one in my room in Namibia once, and I couldn't find this thing. And the simple fact that I knew it was there, it was late, I needed to sleep, but every time a hair on your body twitches, you have visions of this thing climbing up your leg, like something out of the movie Arachnophobia. Yeah, horrible things. I did see one get taken by a bush baby once up in Furry. That was quite cool. I was up in eco-training at their camp, and I was actually watching one with my torch on the way back to the tent, and whilst I was watching him from quite close proximity, but I think he was eating a bug or something at the time, so he was distracted enough to not worry about the fact that I was close by, and suddenly out of nowhere a bush baby just dropped out of the tree and grabbed this solifuge in his mitts and sat there and sort of ate it whilst looking rather nonchalant at me. That was a pretty cool sighting. I have also seen solifuges cannibalize each other, not necessarily the same species, but I've seen one of the larger ones eating one of the smaller diurnal ones before as well.
For years, we've shared virtual wildlife. Now, let's experience it for real. I'm Lauren Arthur, and I'd love to show you my amazing home here in the Greater Kruger of South Africa. This 5-night journey is an exclusive connection to my piece of untamed Africa. I live here in these gorgeous landscapes surrounded by epic wildlife. The wild is calling, so come and join me.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
Welcome to Safari Spotlight. We'll be
And you pretend like you're a salesman, eh?
got no idea what's going on this reserve.
Expecting the unexpected.
Are we stuck down there?
What am I trying to do?
So we have another giant of Mabula.
That was incredible.
This is unbelievable.
It's going to be a spectacular afternoon.
Can you hear that? The wild is calling.
Imagine that just due to gravity and things, the skin along the line of the spine would be a little bit thinner, but I still think you're looking at, maybe up to 2 centimeters, centimeter and a half, but that is as purely an educated guess. Waterhole looks as if it's lost a little bit of water over the last few days. So I'm just basing that on the amount of mud that's showing. And if you watch this elephant in the middle drinking from the pipe looks as if it's quite high above the waterline now. Whereas before it was sort of just slightly under the water. I'm not sure if they can control the amount of flow coming through that pipe. I'm sure they could do. But I think it has dropped a little bit over the last week or so. Interesting to know how much water is actually pumped into a little dam like this on a weekly or a monthly or a yearly basis. You just think of the number of elephants that come through. If each elephant, and there's a lot of big bulls that use this waterhole at Old Donio, if each elephant's drinking 150 litres of water a day out of here, and maybe there are 50 or 100 elephants that come to drink every day. It's actually a huge amount of water that is being utilized by these animals out of this little watering hole. Yeah, you can definitely see the water levels drop. So that pipe, I seem to recall last week, was just under the water level. Francis, you're asking, in the situation of a really bad drought, when do reserves decide to step in, or when should they step in? It's such a difficult question to answer, Francis. As I said, we want to keep it as natural as possible, but we're not going to sit there and let all the animals just die, especially if we've penned them in and rendered it impossible for them to migrate to a new area to get the resources that they need. So it'll be a decision based that is decided by the reserve management, and if animals are literally starting to die, then yes, there will be the potential of supplementary feeding and pumping extra water holes. Those sorts of things, or opening up new water holes, would certainly be considered. But you can't say that when rainfall is less than X amount a year, for example. It's not a distinct rule as such. And that's more in the private reserves. Of course, in things like national parks, where animals have a lot more space available to them, there you're less likely to have supplementary feeding. And I know it's difficult, and some people will probably disagree with me, but in an open system, something as big as Kruger, I don't think we should be supplementary feeding animals, because it's a natural thing. A drought is a natural occurrence. Yes, you can argue that we're changing climate patterns if you would like, but ultimately it's how population numbers are controlled over the larger scheme of things. There are diseases, there are environmental changes, and animal numbers will rise and fall in response to those. But certainly if it's something that we have caused, or if it's a situation that we have rendered it impossible for the animal to rectify that situation, then more often than not, people will step in. Frank, yeah, those toenails can overgrow. They are rather impressive, aren't they? They look like massive scoots from a tortoise shell, which is not too dissimilar to what they are. They're both keratin-based, of course. You're asking, can they ever overgrow? Yes, we've had this discussion a few times recently, strangely. It's been a topic of conversation. Elephant toenails do grow, not as quickly as ours, but the constant use and dragging of the toes helps to keep them relatively short and manageable. But in captive situations where they're not able to traverse over big distances and subject those toenails to the standard wear and tear they would otherwise be receiving, then elephants do receive pedicures, foot maintenance, filing of toenails, and potentially even sort of moisturizing of the feet and things, just to make their life a little bit more manageable, a bit more comfortable, because that is a situation where we have very much changed the goalposts. We've made the goalposts very, very small, not allowing processes to happen naturally, and then yes, we are obliged to step in and administer some foot treatment to elephants. All right, but that was a lovely little visit to Old Donyo. Nice to see the eddies and the zebras and an eland or two. But let's go and check in on our black eagle chick. I've been amazed by how quickly this youngster is growing. Let's see what he looks like now. I swear, every time I see this thing, it's changed again. There's coloration really beginning to come through now. Investigating the edge of the nest, maybe thinking about that first flight in the next month or so. Trying to remember when we think this chick hatched. I'm sure we do have a record of it somewhere. If anyone can remember and let me know, that would be great, so we can try and estimate when the first flight may be. So fledging is normally around about 3 months, I think, 3 to 4 months. I'm trying to think, when was this? Was it June? July? Yeah, if anyone can remember the actual hatching date, that's interesting to know. But normally fledging around about between 90 and 100 days, and then we'll hang around normally for about another month, being helped by the parents, and normally after sort of 5 or 6 months we'll be chased away, and it'll be time for this, as you say, melanistic marble. Yes, this really is the chick. He/she has grown considerably, and then it'll be time to explore the big bad world all for itself. Paul, you're wondering if he's flying yet? I wouldn't have thought so just yet. But say, until I can figure out exactly when the hatching date was, I think we'll be getting close by now. He looks as if he's sort of looking over the edge with a little bit more purpose these days. Okay, mid-June, I've just heard. So June, July, August. So around about 2 months old now. So another month, according to the textbooks, before he's going to take its first flight. But you never know, there'll be exceptions to every rule. If it's a particularly precocious youngster, it might fly the nest a little bit sooner. Azania, you're asking what the reasons are that a bird would commit infanticide. So it is quite common in raptors where chicks will kill other chicks. The reasons behind them are rather selfish, but that's what they are. It's basically removal of competition. It's ensuring that you get all the food and you don't have to share it. And often the breeding pair will make that decision as well, and they will pretty much ignore the second chick. If the first chick has hatched successfully, they would rather quite literally put all their eggs into one basket, as it were, and ensure that one chick makes it to adulthood, as opposed to having a far less likely outcome that 2 chicks were to make it to adulthood. It's hedging one's bets more than anything else. So we see a lot in cuckoos as well. A lot of cuckoos, they're not so much the cuckoos actually, the honey guides in particular will kill their non-related brethren in the nest in which they have been laid. Cuckoos have various different strategies themselves. They've got big feet, so they'll often trample the other chicks because they normally hatch first. Something like the red-chested cuckoo has quite a concave back as a chick, and will actually use its back and sort of push out the eggs of the host species as well, all to do with removing competition. So it's all selfish motives, unfortunately, Azania. It's ensuring that you yourself get the lion's share or the eagle's share of food being provisioned by the parents. Wildlife lady, yep, growing fast. And if it is 2 months old, so first flight to be expected in the next month, and then independence normally by about 4 to 5 months. So not long until it goes out into the big bad world. Theo, you're asking if there's more than one chick, would they fledge at the same time? Difficult to say, Theo, to be honest. It depends on how long there was between the 2 hatchings. You get synchronous and asynchronous hatching in birds. So often things will, even if eggs are laid, the female will only start incubating when she's laid the whole clutch, ensuring that they all develop or hatch around about the same time, so they're all the same size. But say in raptors particularly, it's a bigger egg, there's more development, there's a longer gap between the eggs. It might be a week or maybe even longer between the two. So a week doesn't sound like long, but if you think how much this chick has grown in 2 months, things happen quite quickly. So if it is a staggered hatching, I would imagine that the older one will fledge first and the other one will fledge a little bit later. And again, often is the case that second one won't be developing as quickly because the first one will be taking the majority of the food. It will be developing muscles and confidence at a faster rate. So again, I'm just suggesting ideas here, but I would think the second one's development would be a bit stunted because it certainly wouldn't be getting an equal amount. Canine girl, I'm glad you're enjoying the eagle, your favourite birds, and you think they're just so stunning. I agree, but let's quickly head down to Mantis Founders Lodge. And that's why we quickly headed down. We've got a rhino and a little baby. What a treat.
This unfolds in front of you.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
Out here, every wild moment counts, and as a Wild Earth explorer, you will not miss out. Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free 24/7, and you can even rewind if you have missed out on something. Enjoy the behind-the-scenes video clips as well as fireside chat, or get the early offers on our travel experiences. It's the best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
Those areas, and poaching has begun to become more prevalent in the national parks, again in other areas, possibly as a reaction to increased anti-poaching measures that have been put into place. But let's hope that the numbers continue to slowly drop, preferably down to 0. Molly, you're saying you didn't realise how cute they were until this summer. I don't know if because you have only been watching us for a little bit, or maybe you have recently visited somewhere and were fortunate enough to see rhinos out in the wild. But they are very cute, particularly the young ones. Baby rhinos are some of my favourite things in the bush, particularly the young males. They've got so much personality and they bounce around. It's like they've got little springs in their legs. They're like highly energetic, large warthogs when they're young. And Wildlife Lady saying, always a pleasure to see the white rhinos at Founders. Absolutely. Wildlife Lady, couldn't agree with you more. Robin McLean, you were saying you saw this little one nursing last night. That was very special, I'm sure it was. I always enjoy it when they're trying to elicit milk from mum, and these young rhinos make this incredibly cute sort of squealy, squeaking noise. Very not what you'd expect necessarily to come out of a rhino, but it's a delightful little noise that they make when they want some milk. I was just thinking this youngster is being very patient at the moment. I'm not sure if he's going to get... I thought maybe he was going to try and come in for a drink there. But it seems it's time to move off. But that was very special. Always beautiful to catch up with our rhinos. Beautiful scenes at Mantis Founders Lodge, but let's go back to our black eagle. Kathy, you're saying this eagle chick certainly has a bird's eye view. Absolutely he does. And I'm sure his vision is already incredibly acute. He'll be able to see specific things even moving around on the grass down there below him. And I wonder at what point instinct takes over and whether that sort of encourages the first flight, seeing movement and little antelopes or mongoose running around, or maybe even dussies on the rocks. Does that inspire him or her? I'm going to call it it, to be on the safe side, whether it inspires it to take that first plunge flight. But it may just be me, but he seems to be very much looking at everything, very much aware of what's going on around him, taking a lot more notice of things. He seems to be looking down at the ground. I'm sure that those eyes are already incredibly acute. Hundreds of thousands, if not more, of visual receptor cells in their eyes compared to what we have. 6 or 8 times more resolution and ability to see distant objects in eagles. Trying to remember the statistics. I think we have 200,000 and maybe eagles have up to 1 million, if I remember rightly, of those receptor cells within the eye. Looking very intently at things happening beneath it. Molly, you say it's hard to think of this chick as a chick, but the other night it was crying. I guess it was hungry, or maybe it was afraid of the dark. I'm not sure, but I'm sorry it woke you up. I assume you fell asleep with the camera feed on in the background. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what noise they make, but if you say it's a crying sound, I imagine that would have been a little bit disconcerting. Trying to see there's some green vegetation in that nest just next to his rump that actually looks like a bit of mistletoe. I wonder if that was inadvertently carried up there as part of the nesting process. Of course, doesn't need its own root structure, but would normally be taking minerals and water from the tree to which it is attached. It's a hemiparasite, but still capable of photosynthesizing, which might explain why there's still some green up there. Dave, Judge and Raw, you're both asking about Rudderkrans. As far as I know, Rudderkrans is not too far from Rudderport, so in the Gauteng region, but I am checking that online. It's not an area that I have actually visited, unless there is more than one of those. So I don't know too much about the location, I am afraid. Kenilwe, how long can eagles live? They're quite long-lived for birds. Eagles, they can get up into the 40-odd sort of years of age. So a good innings for a bird, certainly. Crowned hornbills also in that sort of area, maybe even up to 50. But some of these eagles, yeah, quite a few decades. What I found quite interesting was it can take as long as 5, 6, maybe even 7 years for some of these youngsters to develop their full adult plumage. So quite a slow process for eagles. Okay, well, that was really nice to check in on our chick here, but I think let's head back up to Oldonyo in Kenya and see what's happening at the water now.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
The Wild with Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website.
Hyenas love bathing. We are here with a male leopard.
But I think it's unlikely to occur. But those horns are very, very sharp. They're like great big sort of sabers attached to the top of their head. Oh, that's enough, says the oryx. Does Ilan look as if she might be considering coming in again as well? These other giraffe debating their options. Do they want to get involved with these elephants here? Wildlife lady, you're saying that would definitely make a wonderful puzzle. Absolutely. We don't do enough puzzles these days. I quite enjoy a puzzle. I do them on my tablet, but certainly as a kid I used to enjoy jigsaws and puzzles. And yeah, we'll always try and choose a nice scene, but this would be good. Lots of contrasting colours, easy to separate the stripes from the blotches from the grey blobs. Makes me think my grandfather as well. He used to enjoy a good puzzle. We always had a puzzle on the go somewhere, and he used to get very upset if we went to go and visit, and then we started doing his puzzle. We were told to get off his puzzle. Didn't want somebody else to complete it. Wanted the satisfaction, I think, of doing it himself. Loving the way this big bull has just got his trunk curled up on that one long tusk. Perfect little resting point. That trunk is very, very heavy. And that's just to take a load off every now and again. Mr. Elemental, I'm glad you've enjoyed the show today. It's been actually a good one today. We've been seeing an awful lot of elephants lately, and we have had our fair share again today, but we've seen them doing interesting stuff. I particularly enjoyed those ones having a mud bath and towel, and it's been really nice up here at Oldonio just to see such a diversity of species and everybody seemingly getting along at least and sharing the water. Wildlife Lady, I'm glad you've enjoyed today's show as well. We will pass on your thanks to FC and the Zoomies, and of course a great thank you to everybody who joins us regularly and those of you who have recently found us as well. I hope you've enjoyed the show today. So we've seen some glorious sights, and thank you for all of your questions and comments. Lots and lots coming through today, which always makes for a more interesting show from our perspective as naturalists as well, who always make us think and look at things differently. Likewise to Dark Main Lover, your thanks to everybody are much appreciated. And yeah, you must also enjoy your day. But we're down to the last 2 minutes or so today. It's just flown by. In fact, the last minute. So that is almost it. It's a shame that the lions at Tau didn't show up, but if you do have access to these cameras, do keep an eye on Tau later this afternoon, and maybe we get a little bit of a feline show, which would be very nice. And apparently that female does have a couple of cubs, so all the more reason to keep an eye out. Melanistic Marble, thank you to you as well. And Spuss as well, thank you as well for your interactions. Always greatly appreciated. But don't forget to join the team for the live drives on the Sunset Safari this evening. Live at Waterhole will be back as ever tomorrow for another 2 hours of African camera fun. Whatever your plans are for the rest of the day, I hope they go swimmingly. I'm off out to do a star night this evening, and we'll catch up with you next time. But have a great day, everybody. Thanks very much.
Good morning. It is a lovely chilly morning here on Mabulla. My name is Kerry. We have Cameron behind the camera with us today, and we are at Mvubu Dam, just enjoying the sounds of the jackal calling around us and some fiery neck nightjars. What a great way to start the day.
Just thinking about the time of the year, the size of the body, the